Oh, there I'm talking about David and Goliath. First Samuel 17. They talk about Jesse. David's dad told David, "Here, take the supplies and go to the camp and give them to your brothers." Well, he did. Then he heard them talking about this Philistine, this big guy that was, you know, just so dreadful. The armies of Israel were so scared of him. You know, David spoke to them that stood by in verse 26. What shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine? You know, that's just like, well, who does this guy think he is? He's uncircumcised. He's this Philistine. You can tell it's one brazen young man. You know, that he should defy the armies of the living God. People answered him in this manner, so shall it be done for the man who kills him. Now, when his oldest brother heard that he was there, they spoke to the man. He got angry with him, like, David, why'd you come down here? Who's tending the sheep, man? That's your job. These things don't concern you. You're a shepherd. We're in the army, not you. And David, the words of David were reported to King Saul. And then David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. There he is again. I will go and fight this Philistine. It's funny to read this, you know. And Saul said, David, you are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. But David said to Saul, your servant used to keep his father's sheep, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went after it. I'm paraphrasing. He went after it. He struck it. He delivered the lamb out of his mouth. No, 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 that ain't yours. And he caught it by the beard. Right, no, no, no. And struck it and he killed it. Your servant has, and this is 36, both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. I mean, the armor itself probably went down to his shins or something. Because David says that David was a big man. But David wasn't, he was king. Look at it another way. He was a general, but he wasn't a brigadier general anymore. This was not the way to do it. Physical armor wasn't going to help him. It was his spiritual armor. That was the way to go. The spiritual armor makes you, untouchable. Then he took his staff in his hand. He chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in his shepherd's bag and a pouch which he had and a sling in his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. He had a staff and a slingshot and a pouch with the stones in it, the smooth stones. He walked out there. He wasn't afraid. He knew God had his back. And now Goliath, he just was in awe. Like, what are they doing? Sending out a babe to come fight me? Am I a dog that you come with me with sticks? The Philistine cursed David by his gods. That was a mistake. See, Goliath right there was basically saying, you just got one God, I've got many gods. We got more than you. We're more than you. David just kept his cool. The Philistines said to David, come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. Then David had enough. He let Goliath say his piece, and now it's time for David to let loose the words that would give him the victory. You come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day will the Lord deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord does not save with sword or spear. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. That was right when Goliath died. David saw him dead. David saw that stone already in his forehead. He spoke it by faith, not fear. Goliath was speaking in fear. And faith trumps fear every time. So it was when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hurried and ran down to the army to meet the Philistines. And David put his hand in his bag, and took out a stone, and he slung it and struck the Philistine in his forehead, so that the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the earth. David had faith. He seen it in the spirit realm. Once the stone hits its target, the spirit and the physical realm connected. And, he had this little shepherd boy, little youth, just defeated the Philistines' champion. I think some say that he was accounts say he was 8 foot tall. And that David wasn't. He was, a youth, a shepherd boy. Not exactly for sure. Some of them say 5'6" or something. That's not all that David did. This young man ran over, took the Philistines' Goliath's sword, 8 foot tall. You can imagine how big this guy's sword is. The sword was probably the size of David himself. He drew it out of its sheath, and killed him. He cut his head off. And that wasn't it. He picked up his head. And he chased the army down. And they had to have been thinking this kid is nuts. He's chasing us with this huge head in his hand. And they were defeated, every one of them. The birds of the air and the beasts of the earth, they were they were full. They had their fill. You know, it was some good eatings in. It was all you could eat buffet for them. You know, it's so cool. Little guy. You know that it's actually a representation of us. You know, with our life when when things look so big that we can't see how we could triumph over them. We need to be bold and strong like David. No, my God, whom I serve, He will deliver you in mine hand. You know, we won these little victories. You know, these little battles. You know, and then when the supposedly bigger one comes up, no, 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 it's just a little one. I've already whooped you. Let's go. Feet are done. You know, greater is He who is in you than he who is in the world. It goes right along with that. Because David knew that the one that was within him, in his heart, was greater. Well, hope this was a blessing to you. God loves you and I love you. Jesus is Lord. And no matter how big it may seem, it's little. In Jesus' name, amen.